is so insane. We must merely make a start. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world.
The way you see an idea in your mind.
Let's all take a walk. Let's all take a walk. Savannah. Light is gonna come. The birds have just begun. We will always take a stand for the people, for the land. Let's go back to when we were young. For the animals we stand. Let's go back to when trees were swung. Kids across the land. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a walk. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a walk. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah.
like a Hellcat. Coming like a Hellcat. Like a Hellcat. Coming like a hell.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the World Open action, and this time around we are going to have Ronnie O'Sullivan against Matthew Selt after his last 64 match was cancelled with the Ishbising Shudder, with all the sort of withdrawals from the tournament we already had from the top seeded players, the likes of Wakelin, Hawkins, Selby and many more added to the list, especially all in round 2. But anyway, he manages to get himself a walkover through to round 3, and now he's going to be playing against Matthew Selt here in the last 32. A player that has managed to create a bit of an issue for O'Sullivan previously. You know, he's played against him in the China Grand Prix for the last time, pretty much 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. And that time around, he was taken all the way and needed to force a decider for him to be crowned the winner. Managed to reach the semi-final stage at that time. So let's see if he's going to be able to get to a decent level here, because once again, we lost the top seeded player from very much his part of the draw. John Higgins lost out to Stan Moody in a very interesting decider. Sean Murphy could have done the same in his match against David Lilly, and in the end, Sean managed to come through his encounter and will face Ronnie O'Sullivan if the Rocket is able to find himself winning 5 frames here. I know it's a bit of a steady start. It's interesting to see the way that especially Selt is going to approach this one, because we all know that Ronnie's not going to be sitting in the back end of a safety play for too much of the time. So he's going to try and make things happen as soon as the opportunity is going to present itself. But for now, it's looking like he's going to take his time, at least for the start of this match, which has probably been the common thing for him so far in the season. You know, he certainly is thinking about taking his time in the first couple of frames, but then, you know, should he lose those 2 frames, then he might just throw all the caution out of the wind. But for now, it's a bit of an interesting shot there from Selt, and Ronnie was ready to rise himself out of his seat to try and play the red, which would have been left over the pocket. In the end, it drops in. So Selt is going to apologise for the fluke, but it's only going to get him a single point. Oh, what's he done there? He's done the John Higgins special. He's done an absolute blunder there. He's tried to roll that cue ball in behind the green, and now it is going to be 4 points given away to Ronnie, but ultimately, I'm not sure. Well, it's obviously going to be a free ball, but I'm not sure if it's going to be worth taking on there from O'Sullivan's point of view. So once again, a bit of a shaky start there. Probably something that you can forgive Selt in the first couple of shots, but still, you know, the consequences could be quite bad for him, as Ronnie does indeed decide to give him the position back. So he should still be fine to try and catch those reds from the lower ends on the left-hand side of the table. He's tried to hit them with power though, which is surprising to me, and he's got that one completely wrong. I mean, I can't really understand what he was playing for there, because he was never going to catch that red so thin next to the pink, but at least he manages to get that pink away from the main area of danger. Now then, has he managed to get himself lined up for the black? I'm not sure, and Ronnie doesn't seem to be sure either about it. So straight away was very eager to try and take on the position that he had next to his name, and in the end he's going to be forced to just try and get that cue ball to be lined up on the top end of the table. So both of the players managed to get themselves an easy red. You know, Selt got a fluke, O'Sullivan got a red left pretty much over the pocket, but neither of them managed to get anything of that. And it's going to be back to Matthew to try and do something about it. By the way, the pair next to each other, so I said Sean Murphy could still be due to face Ronnie O'Sullivan. It could also be Shu C that he's going to be playing up against right now. And it's a good shot that by Selt, because despite him pushing one of those reds towards the right corner, he manages to get the cue ball even closer to the right side cushion, which makes it pretty much unplayable, but also it makes a very tight line in the case of Ronnie O'Sullivan to try and find a safety shot here. So let's see if he's going to be able to. He's going to need 3 cushions at least now, and ideally he wants that cue ball to be heading in behind the green and the pink. Brilliant shot there, and I'm not too sure why the crowd haven't acknowledged that, because that was absolutely brilliant there from Ronnie, managing to find a very tight space to put that cue ball somewhat safe. And yeah, the 2 dangerous reds that he was sort of bound to give away, he's managed to cover both of them, and now Selt hasn't played quite as nice of a shot there, so clearly he's going to be punished with the attempt to be given away. So I feel like one of the parts of Ronnie O'Sullivan's game that he needs to improve on is going to be his long shot game, but also just the ability to try and get himself lined up on the colour, because I tell you what, this position is not going to be an easy one for sure. For now, he's going to try and take the red into the corner, and just like I say, he's unable to pot it. Now, has he got that cue ball to slow down before he goes around the pink? No, he hasn't, is the answer. So now, it's going to be all about if Selt can actually get through to the red, closer to the pocket. He's got a couple of those reds in there, but ultimately the same is going to apply to him. The factor of the black being out of position and covered up by the reds, the brown being tied to the side cushion, and the pink and the green being in the way of each other. For now, Selt is going to try and get the red in. He's going to get another fluke to his name, and let's see if this time around he's going to be able to get himself a colour after that. I mean, he was playing at bland, but in the end, after a little bit of a cannon into 2 of those reds, you know, the red that clearly wasn't aiming to try and pot is actually going to drop in, and it's going to be a snooker that this time around he's not going to mess around with, and just get that cue ball to be touching the green as he cannons it away from the cue ball. So once again, turn is going to go back to O'Sullivan. This time around, he's going to be quite difficult for him to make his way towards the left corner of the table and try and still get even a minimal contact with those reds. He's going to do it pretty nicely here. So just make sure that you're going to keep that cue ball very much facing the wrong way in terms of the left side of it, and I feel like he hasn't really done so. So he's left the red into the right corner. So this is going to be interesting now, because as much as he has left Selt a chance, the position is far from ideal. He should be able to score some good points out of it, but I probably wouldn't go as far as he's going to have a great chance of winning this frame altogether. I mean, he does have a couple of those reds quite right next to the black, which he can try and potentially use as a way out for him to get the black into the open play, and then he should be able to go from that point onwards. Oh, for now, he's trying to do it right here, right now. And I tell you what, I don't feel like it's worked out for him at all. Pretty unlucky there, Selt. Pretty unlucky. And you probably have to admire the way that he's gone into the back straight away. You know, he had an absolute mile to go from the cue ball touching the blue and then going all the way towards the black spot. But, yeah, as I say, pretty unfortunate for him not to be lined up on any of those reds. And the one that he's got pretty decent chance of trying to pot, he's actually cannot see right now because of the black being in the way. So once again, just a safety shot. And, well, it's been a bit of a slow start, but something that you probably can't forgive the players, especially for neither O'Sullivan or Selt playing their matches in the first round of the main draw in the last 64. You know, Selt got a walkover over David Gilbert days before the tournament has even started, and O'Sullivan had the same thing confirmed about him. Should he have beaten Ross Muir, which he's managed to do, then he was able to get himself lined up through to the third round straight away. We've seen a couple of those, as I said. You know, another notable couple that we've seen are Stephen Maguire lost out automatically against Shu Si, and allowed the Chinese player to be facing Sean Murphy. Then the same thing happened to Chris Wakeland. Barry Hawkins and Mark Selby are the ones probably the most notable withdrawals from the tournament. And you know, the top seeded player that, as I say, we've lost is going to have to be John Higgins. Pretty surprised that we haven't seen anything of Neil Robertson as well. And unless he's lost a qualifying match, I would expect that he's dropped out of the tournament as well. I know it's a safety shot here for Ronnie to play, but he can always try and turn that into an attacking shot as well. Although, I mean, you can't really be playing this attacking shot in the way that he would have liked it to be because of the black not being available, the pink being nowhere to be seen. So he's going to have to try and make this way around the blue. But the way that Selt has managed to get those reds previously away from each other, he should get a really good chance to try and make his way to the top end of the table here. But for now, it looks like it is going to be Ronnie that gets the advantage. Selt was forced to just try and roll the cue ball towards this red. So let's see if Ronnie's going to see the gap there, because as much as he wants to try and get that cue ball to the top end of it, he needs to make sure he's going to be using the full width of the yellow, so that he's going to be covering the left-hand side of the table. He's tried to use the green, but I'll tell you what, I mean, if that was his plan, to try and get that cue ball in behind the green, then it's going to be nowhere to be seen. He's not even close to it. Probably the only thing that makes this shot sort of forgivable is, as I say, the fact of not having any colours apart from the blue or the yellow or green pretty much available to him. But still, last thing that you want to be doing is gifting those chances away to Selt on a consistent basis. Now he's using backspin, so he's clearly trying to make his way around. I'll tell you what, this is going to make the shot a little bit more difficult. He has made the shot more difficult. He's missed it. Now, has he left anything away? He should have a chance away into the left corner here, O'Sullivan. But that's probably going to be about as good as it gets now. The good thing for Ronnie for now is that Selt doesn't seem like he's going to be firing on all cylinders. So you just need to make sure that Ronnie's going to be able to get himself a decent frame over or a two of a cushion before the ignition for Selt finally works in. And then he's going to be very much the card to catch. Because as I say, I mean, it's fine for you to be beating Ross Muir. And it's very nice for me to be seeing that interview that he said he's going to be working really hard to try and make his way all the way to the top. And that's going to rank among his best achievements ever. You know, 7 world titles, 8 masters, whatever. If I manage to come back and play the way that I've managed in 2 or 3 years ago, then I'm going to be the happiest man on earth, were the words from his interview. And these are the type of frames that he needs for that, to try and get that sort of comeback started. And I actually feel like it was a bit of a problem for him that he didn't play a match against Ishbitz in China, because, you know, you say he arrived in China a week ago to practice, and that's fine, and that's really good that he's going to be practicing, but you can never replace the proper match play against a professional if you're going to sort of substitute that for just a practice table, because as much as you can practice many of those scenarios, you can't practice all of them. And, that's a bad shot that he's played, but he got quite fortunate with a kiss on the red. And he's actually managed to favour from that. Because the cue ball was always going to be right next to the pink after that shot, but in the end manages to be lined up perfectly on the pink. And Selt probably can't complain too much about O'Sullivan being lucky. But as I say, it's been a while since we've seen Ronnie to be winning the first couple of frames, especially back-to-back there. He's managed to have a 3-0 lead against Ross Muir. And now, can he try and have some sort of a lead against Selt and ultimately allow himself to be making sure he's not going to sort of let him run away with it too much. So for now, he's looking to dispatch plenty of those reds, manages to put the pink into its ordinary position in the last couple of shots, and now going to be trying to use it here. He scores 28 points, still leaves 75 at the table. Pretty much all of these reds are going to be playable there, which is going to make this break very important. Just making sure that you don't allow Selt to be coming back to the table in the remainder of the frame. Make sure you're going to be very much the man to catch here. Another red about to disappear into the right corner. Plays this one pretty well. And yeah, the positional play seems to be spot on there from Ronnie. Apart from that red that he managed to catch with full power previously. But apart from that, the cueing seems to be working pretty well. You know, he wasn't clearly on the first red that he's played for the black, but that was quite far down the ranking now into this opening frame. Now he's got a break of 42 points, and ultimately he's got a gap of 39 points. So now he's going to be switching to the maths, and he should have the ability to get either one of those two reds into the right middle, and then it shouldn't really be a problem as he gets the pink into the right corner. Gets him 45 points of a gap. But of course he's going to be able to get the red and the pink combination. That'll put him 52 points clear with only 51 at the table. So it does look like, and I didn't expect this one by the way, I didn't expect Selt to take sort of a commanding lead there, because that's been the way that Ronnie's gone on about the business so far in this season. But it's always going to be the bonus if he gets this pink, gets himself a 52 points of a lead, and then just tries to take it. Red by red there, played a really nice shot, probably a little bit unfortunate with the way that he got very straight in those reds, but he should have the ability to try and cut one further away from the cue ball into the middle, and then doesn't really need to worry about the position of the next colour too much, although it would not be Ronnie O'Sullivan if he wasn't going to worry about the position. Now then takes that red, so the frame is going to be his for the taking, and it's now going to be the green that he tries to play as well. So it could still be a century break, technically speaking, because it's 59 points that he scores, 43 still at the table. So if he plays the remaining couple of reds with high value colours, he should still get a decent chance of that century break. Make it, well, he's going to need to take the blue and the pink here of the last two reds, because now it's going to be 65 points. Now, apologies for that. He's going to need a red and a black to be taken. Let's see if he's going to play for the pink or the black here, because I feel like he's not really going to care about making a break of 99 points if he can. But in the end, clearly tried to make contact with the black, wasn't able to do so. So he's going to settle for the pink in the end, because he's still got position on that colour. So it's still going to be a brilliant start there, because a break of 72 points in the first frame is something that you quite rarely see of even the top players, because it does take you a little bit of time to get up to speed, especially in the way that this frame has started. This is still going to be a very good display that from Ronnie. Let's see if he's going to be able to do anything with the brown. He's going to try and play in behind of it for a shot along the side cushion. Once again, trying to take those as serious as he possibly can for a break that's not even going to get him a century break here. But just confirming the worth ethic is going to be there. Just about misses the brown by a millimetre or two. And with the force that he's played there, that was clearly enough to keep the brown still remaining on the table. But it's still a really nice break that from Ronnie O'Sullivan. That gets himself 77 points on the board in one visit to the table. And now puts himself one frame clear of Matthew Selt. And one step closer to trying to get to the last 16. Where he'll play either Shusi or Sean Murphy, should he be successful. In the meantime, Karen Wilson already managed to take the first frame against Alan Taylor. Mark Allen's done the same thing against Jack Lisowski. Ryan Day is about to win his first frame against Stan Moody. But ultimately, Sean Murphy is looking to try and get a comeback against Shu Si. He's got a very interesting situation there because he's got a break of 4 points. He's 25 points back. And he's got 27 at the table. Let's have a look if he's going to be able to get that position sorted for himself. Just want to see the way that the Reds are actually going to be positioned out there. Yeah, he's got basically a 6-color clearance to try and take. Let's see if he starts well with the yellow. Oh, he's missed the yellow there, Sean. So this is surely going to give the first frame away. And remember, he was 4-1 down against David Lilly. And this is going to be a very interesting way for him to start this display because, you know, Shu Si has managed to land a couple of upsets earlier in the season. Let's see if he's going to be able to get another one because this is now going to have a direct correlation to Ronnie O'Sullivan and Matthew Selt because the winner of this pair will play either Shu Si or Sean Murphy respectively. So yeah, we have to keep an eye on that one later on. But for now, we're about to start the second frame. As I say, really refreshing to see that start from Ronnie. But you know what's going to be even more refreshing if he's going to be able to keep that momentum and just keep the way that he plays that game throughout the remainder of this match. Because if he's going to play like that, it makes him absolutely unstoppable and makes it impossible for him to lose those type of matches. But it's always going to be a bit of an if statement if we are going to be witnessing that form of Ronnie consistently throughout the entire match here. But it's a good start. And what he needs to try and do right now, he's going to have to be focus on his own game, obviously, but just try and make sure he avoids leaving out a chance for Selt earlier on in the match. It's fine to do that in the 4th or 5th frame when you won the previous 3, but make sure you don't leave him reds over the pocket all the time so that inevitably one of them will be potted. Inevitably, he'll get himself on the colour, and you never know, this could potentially inspire Selt this time to try and get him a century break or something. You know, he's not ordinary player. He's not the world number 220, is he? Like, he's been a consistent top 24 player, top 16 player throughout the prime of his career. Yes, he's no longer in the top 32 or top 16 even more, but still very much needs to be taken notice of. Now Selt has taken notice of the cue ball or something being on the white. So he's going to have to wait a couple of seconds there from the referee. So just taking the cue ball with him. So clearly not happy with the work that referee has done. Now he's going to try and do it himself there. So, you know, whether it was a bit of a mind game or he was just not happy with something that was going on with the white. Anyway, he's going to be taking the break-off shot here and giving the turn back to Ronnie O'Sullivan straight away. It's a decent break-off shot. Manages to get the black to be opened off to an extent. And from that point onwards, it should still be a decent opportunity for Ronnie to try and... well, let's see if he wants to try and go for this red, because you feel like he's not going to be risking a lot here if he misses it. But as I say, I'm not really a big fan of him taking long shots like that, because he doesn't seem to have a good record against them. And once again, he's not going to have a good record here. Let's see where that red is going to finish. You're probably not going to leave anything away here, apart from maybe a couple of reds into the left middle. So it probably wasn't a reasonable shot to play. But once again, I mean, if that red would have dropped in that particular shot, the cue ball is nowhere to be seen on the black. So it still would have been a very difficult shot for him to be taking. And instead, he's left a chance away to Selt, which Matthew hasn't taken. Let's see if this red is going to be available to Ronnie. The answer seems to be no. But this time around, he's got a couple more of those reds by the left corner, which Ronnie should be able to take. And once again, the problem has always been getting those chances in first and trying to utilise them from the first couple of shots. If Ronnie's going to be able to score 10 or 20 points, then he should be clear for a break of 50 plus points out there. So now it's a good start. Lovely shot on the cueing as well. Once again, positioned perfectly for the brown. Potentially even too good there. As you can see, a reaction from Ronnie, suggesting that he's probably landed very straight on the brown. Once again, this is the old cliche in snooker. If you're going to be playing well in the first frame, you're always going to have the advantage in frame number 2 as well. And now he got himself a first chance after Selt's unforced error. And now let's see what's he going to be there, because As much as Selt sort of could have got away with that one, I feel like he's played his shot in a bit of a wrong fashion because he's played that with power, which probably, you know, puts him under a little bit more pressure because he puts the red off a risk of being anywhere there, as O'Sullivan plays a lovely shot to try and make sure the black is going to be free of any reds to be next to it. It probably still would have gone into both left and right corner pocket, but now it's going to be a lot easier for it to position. And once again, just doesn't seem like he's going to be holding back anything there. So playing this shot for the red. And making sure that he's going to get that one in. So just trying to keep himself on the black here. And try and keep the break going. That makes it again a break of 27 points as he takes another black into the left corner. Just making sure that he's going to have another semi-difficult red to get rid of. And then he should have two more reds, which are not going to be any sort of issue for him. And then depends on if he can get through to the red right next to the pink. He should have another good opportunity for him to continue that break even further. But for now, certainly, as I say, the good signs are there. And he seems to be playing focused. He seems to be playing well. He seems to be queuing well, which is always going to be the most important factor for him. Now, let's see the way that he's going to handle this position here. Because as much as he scored 36 points and counting on this break, you would like this one to be taken one step further and very much join the count of the previous frame, where he managed to take it in a single visit to the table. Clever shot once again there, realising that pink is going to be off his spot the first time that he plays that one, and allows himself to be positioned on one more red to the right corner, take it with the black, and then he should be lined up on the last of those available reds before he's bound to do something with the remaining 7 reds, positioned absolutely perfectly in a triangle. 6 reds, and then 1 red on top of them as if it was the pink. For now, it's going to be another break of 50 points here for Ronnie. Takes it nicely into the left middle. Plays that cue ball around the table, and once again positioned perfectly for the black, just about alongside there, which allows him to be getting that cue ball lined up perfectly into those reds without sacrificing too much of the positional play. This has been an absolutely brilliant break so far, and it's only going to get better from this point, because now the frame is going to be his within a couple of shots there. Once again, a brilliant positional split. Those reds could not have gone further away from each other, even better. And now it's just going to be all about trying to finish off the frame, and then you can focus on the century break and just getting the maximum number of points out of this particular break. Once again, had to sacrifice the position on the colour, had to take the blue, but ultimately very important for him to have the minimal angle, which was always going to force that cue ball down the lower end of the table. By the way, I've got no idea why it says 64 points of a break and 75 at the table. There you go, that's better. Now he's got 65 points of advantage and 67 points remaining here. So he's about to take the black, make that 72 points, and it's going to be another frame that Ronnie O'Sullivan is going to take away from Matthew Selt. But this time around, it is going to be a scoreline to 0, something that you don't really see, especially very often for Ronnie O'Sullivan's point of view, for him to be getting that frame win in a single visit to the table, but also doing that whilst your opponent is not going to score any of those points. And whatever he's managed to do in his training camp is certainly working out so far. And yeah, I mean, anything but is the performance that I expected there. I expected his struggle and a bit more of the same thing there as we've seen in the World Grand Prix. And if he manages to carry this form in the match of either Shusi or Sean Murphy, he should be very much a man to catch there, because this has been absolutely brilliant. A break of 89 points and counting makes it the highest break of the match. Still going to be lined up on the black, and he's got 2 more reds, very much in the open play. I'll tell you what, he's taken loads of blacks there. 10 blacks, 2 blues, one brown and 1 pink there. So still very much on for something like a 140, I would say. Probably something right next to it. Now then, if you take the black in here, it should be a century break, and it is going to be a break of 104 points, so he's still very much looking for 139 points of a clearance, which I'm pretty sure he's going to put him joint seconds. Forget about that. He's going to be taking the pink, which would get it down to 138, but this has been such a brilliant snooker to be watching, and genuinely, Like, if you haven't told me this is 2026, you have to go back to 2022 for the last couple of times that I've seen this free-flowing form of Ronnie, where he didn't really take any notice of the opponents. And I know it's only round 3, but I tell you what, it's only been round 3 for the last couple of years, and he still hasn't been playing anywhere near as good as this. Now look at that for a cue ball control. Brilliant to go around the black, super close to it without touching. And the position on the green is going to be absolutely sublime. Selt got his cue quite far away from him, and he's not going to need that piece of wood very much till the end of the match. And very much till the end of the frame, I was going to say. But you may not even need it till the end of the match, because if Ronnie's going to be able to take this form into the next couple of frames, I mean, who says that he can't do that? And it's a break of 120 points and counting. Still very much bound now to make it 138. As he takes the blue into the left middle. Plays that cue on nicely for the pink. And this has been an absolutely breathtaking snooker. Now then, what's it going to be? Is it going to be a 138 of a clearance? The pink is going to be into the corner. The black is going to be about to follow. And this has been an absolutely brilliant frame of snooker from Ronnie. Once again, does that break in no time at all. And puts himself in pretty comfortable position now. As he takes a commanding lead now of 2 frames to nil. But ultimately, it's the way that he's managed to do that. Breaks of 77 and 138 are certainly the way for you to get the business started. And Matthew Selt is going to be in deep trouble, and he needs to try and perform right now. Otherwise, he's going to be out of the tournament before he even notices that. And by the way, Shaun Murphy and Juicy are still very much starting the second frame. Weeze and Stuart Bingham, the match that I'm actually a bit surprised is not going to be on table 2. With all the respect to Kyron Wilson and Alan Taylor. But you feel like Bingham is always going to be a bit more of a challenge to Weezer. Or so I thought. Now finds himself a frame and 57 points down. So still going to be very much a man to be catching there. Stan Moody and Ryan Day are going to be another couple of favourites for them to be playing against Ronnie O'Sullivan or Shaun Murphy or Matthew Selt in the, or Shu Si really, in the quarterfinal stage. And then another couple are going to be Artemis Zizens from Latvia and Luca Brissell. He needs no introduction there, but surprisingly Brissell has taken a bit of time to lose the first frame. So clearly been played in the fashion of Artemis Zizens' favour. No breaks of 50 plus points as well. And in the end it was a loss by a substantial amount of points there. Mark Cullen just managed to close the second frame against Jack Lisowski as well. So he seems to be off to a good start. But Lisowski still struggling to find the consistent form, although he's managed to, of course, get himself into the final of the Home Nation event at the Welsh. Let's see if he's going to be able to take that form even further and potentially be a real threat. We have got loads of top-seeded players still very much running in the tournament, but if you're going to have nice little Mark Cullen or Jack Lisowski or Luca Brissell, Weeze and Stuart Bingham have to be put into that equation as well, then certainly not going to do any damage to snooker. Going to have the world champion of Xiaoxington against Sam Craig later today for him to try and battle it against either Gary Wilson or Ian Burns into the last 16. And then Trump is going to be playing against Jackson Page, as much as he has been pretty quiet, pretty much because of the opposition really. You know, he's managed to defeat Florian Nussel from Austria and managed to defeat Mark Lloyd as a replacement for Chris Totten, which was another withdrawal from the tournament. Let's actually have a look through all the withdrawals from the tournament that we had. Obviously not going to have any today, but then yesterday we had Ishprits Cheddar, we had Mark Selby and Barry Hawkins to be withdrawn from the tournament. So that makes it 3. Then we had Umud Dikme, very much losing out against Shui Chen. Then David Gilbert against Matthew Selt as well. Then Steve Maguire, Chris Wakeland, and Jack Jones against Luca Brissell as well. So that adds up to 11 in the end on different stages as well. Some of them would have been in the qualifying round, and a couple more would have been in the first or even the second round matches, as we've seen with Ishprits Cheddar and David Gilbert. In the meantime, the third frame is about to start, and Ronnie seems to be underway pretty nicely here, but you feel like at this stage, Selt is going to be feeling all or nothing mode now. And let's see the way that this is going to go. It's not going to go nice to Selt though. Ooh, I mean, has he managed to still get away with this one? It was pretty unfortunate with the way that the red has travelled all the way to the top end of the table. And still somehow managed to find the cue ball as he bounced back onto the lower end of it. But let's see if he's going to have a red to try and take it into the corner. Yes, he does there. Ooh, that's a bad spot by me because he could have easily seen that red. So the delay in the play clearly was all about just trying to find a perfect scenario for him to be lined up on the next couple of colours. But it does remind you slightly of the form that he had in Saudi Arabia Masters in the first couple of rounds. And in the first round, really, because he's managed to have a really good campaign against Joe Connor. It was a struggling match until the end against Chang Min Yu. And then, of course, he didn't have a mesmerising performance or anything like that against Karen Wilson in the quarterfinal, before going on to make a breathtaking match campaign against Chris Wakelin, make 2 1-4-7s in the progress, and I'm pretty sure he made a 1-4-2 in there as well in the first 6 match. But yeah, this is going to be unfortunate for himself because of the way that he managed to get that cue ball to cannon into the red. But ultimately, this is now going to be all about the position that Ronnie has got available to him. Yes, it's not going to be as kind to him as the previous frame, because he's going to have a few of those reds available and in the open play, which makes it more difficult for him to make this break, the one that actually counts for him. But in the end, it's going to be all about scoring points, and he's going to have a couple more of those reds before he just needs to start to worry about the position. So as long as he takes all of them, he should still have a cluster of 8 reds, which is not too many of those, to be fair. As long as he's not going to be able to get through to the left corner of the table and try and get one of those reds to disappear into the left part of it. For now, it's going to be another red to be taken here into the corner. So get himself 23 points clear. Take that red away, get himself lined up for the black. And this now is where the fun is going to start for Ronnie, because does he try and send the cue ball into the bunch of reds straight away? Well, he's decided not to do that, and I'm very surprised that he hasn't, because he got himself into all sorts of trouble now. I mean, it was a bit of a nothing shot that he was playing there, because I can't really see the way that he was going to get those 2 reds to develop away from each other, that he was going to make that shot worth it, because that is the position that he was always going to end up for me. But whatever it was, he clearly had something in mind, but it hasn't worked out. Good news is he hasn't missed anything, so he's still going to have a safety shot in hand and just send that cue ball all the way to the blackball cushion. It's a break of 30 points, so it's not like he scored a single point out there. Still going to be quite a good break there, especially after the way that he managed to get himself as a chance. But ultimately, it is now going to be giving the turn back to his opponent and trying to get the reds and the cue ball somewhat safe. Just tries to take the red into the right corner of the table. And let's see where the red is going to finish, because he doesn't want it too close to the left corner. And he's just about going to be close enough to the black ball cushion instead. So I feel like Ronnie is going to be taking the shred on, but probably only for a safety shot. Got this one a little bit too thick, but should still have a good chance. And look at that for the cue ball position. I mean, I say you got that one too thick on the edge in terms of the red going close to the right middle. The cue ball is going to be positioned absolutely perfectly, dead straight, alongside probably the only red which Selt can play for without needing to use the side cushion first. And indeed, he's going to use the side cushion now. So, that red being a straight line, he's not really going to be able to play a couple of easy of those shots. And he seems to be absolutely nowhere near the bunch of reds here. Well, he wasn't nowhere near, but he still missed them. So let's see if he's left the red now into the middle pocket, because it feels like he didn't touch it. I mean, they still haven't given 4 points away, but last second the referee was sort of in the way. I tell you what, if Selt has left this red into the middle, this is going to be an absolute blunder, and it is going to be the case. So 31 points now is the advantage. And I tell you what, as much as Ronnie has demonstrated some great snooker, he's also been helped on massively by his opponent's mistake, because that was absolutely horrendous. As much as it was a decent safety shot from Ronnie to set up the play, Selt had absolutely no right to be leaving that red into the right middle. And Well, if the first chance wasn't taken, and Ronnie was only able to score 30 points out of it, but he still managed to get a couple of those reds away from the table, that's going to clear up the position even more for him. Although he still has got a large cluster of those reds to try and go on about the business. He's trying to get into them now, and I tell you what, even though I have said he should be lined up pretty nicely for a frame win, it hasn't really worked out for him, would it seem, because as much as he had a decent shot and try and get into the paint with firm power, still seems to have put himself in no man's land there in terms of his position on those reds. His ideal chance would have been to try and take one into the corner, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to get through to it, and there's not anything else really that he can do about it apart from the double, which he's looking at right now. But still, that's going to be way too risky for you to be taking on in the even though it's the third round match and it's the frame number 3, with you having that 2-0 and 43-0 points of an advantage. So then Selt, he's certainly going to be coming back to the table for one more time, but it's a decent shot once again there that Ronnie has played, getting that cue ball to be right behind the ball cushion. And just having a look at it now, Selt, asking the referee to clean the white as well. He's probably, his best chance probably right now is going to have to be taking that attacking red into the right corner. But once again, he's missed a couple of those reds before, and there's not going to be any sort of insurance that he's not going to be missing this one here. So try and take one into the left corner seems to be the approach instead. I'll tell you what, this is really risky. And, well, he could not have been further away from making that red. A bit fortunate with the way that he got the cannon on the second red as well. And let's see if Ronnie's still going to be looking to try and take that red into the right corner. And, well, he could still try and play some sort of a safety shot out of it. Just get that cue ball all the way to the top end of the table. And that's certainly the decision that he decides to take. So after not taking the previous 2 opportunities, clearly he's going to be working pretty hard to make sure the fourth one is going to be the one that takes it over the edge and just puts him into even more of a comfortable position in relation to Selt here. Matthew is going to be just wandering around the table once again, looking to still score his first points ever since the start of the first frame. And ever since then, it has been a one-way traffic, and Ronnie has been able to set the pace to this match pretty well. Now, let's see if he's going to be able to get that cue ball away from the yellow pocket and keep the reds away from the right corner as well. The pace seems to be good on the cue ball, but has he managed to get the cannon, the cover I should say, in behind the yellow? I tell you what, this is going to be close, but I've got a feeling that Ronnie just about can get through to this red. It's going to be fine margins of a shot now. But I said, it's probably the first shot of a long attempt that he needs to be taking on ever since I've mentioned that he seems to have been struggling with those, but it was actually not available to him. So he was using the same red, which could have been played into the corner, but clearly didn't see enough of it to be taking that cut on. So just a safety shot that he's played. I'm giving the turn back to Matthew here, but ultimately he's probably going to give initiative back to Matthew Selt as well, because this is going to be a free shot, although he seemed to have messed it up quite badly. The cue ball is going to be close to the yellow pocket. It's going to be very close. Just about keeps it away there. So I'll still play that with a bit too much power, but it was the power that probably saved him from a little bit of a sign of a fade there, and the cue ball just drifting towards the pocket. And Roddy just playing a straightforward cross double, which if you avoid double kiss on, which he's managed to do, is always going to get you a result that you're looking for. Played it pretty well. So now once again, it is going to be another couple of safety shots there to be played. And yeah, just looking to see if he's going to be able to try and get those reds towards the left side cushion without leaving either one of them very close to the left corner itself. Well, it was a decent effort. It was a little bit unlucky with the kiss that he got on the red, but this time around, surely he's not going to be getting the same treatment twice, and Ronnie should be able to get through to the red, to the left corner. Although the way that he's studying the position here, I mean, he could be just studying the way the cue ball is going to bounce away from the black ball cushion, but it's still going to be very much a high risk of a shot there for him to play. If he wants to try and drop the cue ball onto the lower end of the table, no, he's not. He was obviously studying for the positional play. And look at that. Brilliantly finds a gap to get that cue ball to be lined up at the top end of the table. I mean, he's overplayed for the yellow and the brown, to be fair, even into the middle pocket. So let's see the way that he's going to be trying to go on about the business here. He's still going to be clearly taking on the yellow, but whether it's going to be into the right corner. Ooh, I mean, he missed that one up. And yeah, he messed that one up big time. It was probably the only shot that he needed to win that frame because of, you know, how easy the position would have been. But that's always going to put you under pressure. I was a little bit surprised that he tried to take that yellow with no pace at all. Now, is it going to be the chance that I was talking about? It's quite nice that Ronnie manages to avoid giving those chances away in the second frame. As much as, you know, it's still not nice to be doing that when you're 2-0 up. And it's not nice to be doing that at any stage of the match. But still, at least he's going to have the ability of saying that, you know, even if I'm going to lose this frame, starting from this point onwards, I'm still going to be very much the leading force to catch in the next couple of frames. But now this is going to give a bit of a lifeline to Selt because as much as he's going to be taking a little bit of time, apart from the red, which is going to be quite close to the left side cushion, it should be to me, a very easy put away there from Matthew Selt. By the way, Sean Murphy is about to make it one frame each there against Shu C. And Stuart Bingham somehow managed to come back from being 57 points down in the second frame against Weezer and take it back to square one as well. So then Selt is going to get himself positioned on the black here, although he doesn't seem to have loads of conviction that he played the right shot there, which is surprising because the black surely is just going to be either available or not available. And if he wasn't available, then he should have done his homework before playing for the black. And, well, he just tried to hammer that one home, which I have to say is a bit of a weird shot selection anyway. And, I mean, Selt doesn't seem like he's helping himself from the IQ perspective. I don't really understand what he's doing there. He had such a good chance of trying to take this position all the way. All of a sudden, he puts himself with a mighty shot to try and take. And he's still quite fortunate to be having that one as a short selection into the corner. And even though he is going to be quite fortunate, he got the black to be onto the yellow spot now. So let's see if he's going to be trying to take that red away. He was, and to be fair, as much as I said, he's messed up the position big time. He's managed to recover at that point. So it was a really good shot. Well, I'll tell you what, that was probably the shot of the match there. Brilliant there from how difficult the cut was, but also how close the cue ball was to the left side. So now try and bounce that cue ball away and, well, basically keep it on the lower end of the table here. Probably going to get himself positioned for the red onto the left side cushion. Get that one out of the way. And once again, he's still going to have a bit of a problem with yellow and probably pink being out of position. But he just needs to try and focus on those 5 reds. At that point, he should be able to score somewhere like 40 points or something. Well, 30 or something like that. And then he should just need the bold colours and the blue. Maybe the pink if he's going to be using some really cheap colours out there. But he's going to be, I feel like the main challenge is still going to be trying to get those 5 reds in. He's using the entire width of those pockets there. Just trying to play those shots. Very much focusing on the positional play at the same time. You know, he could have had quite a bad correlation to it. But he's still in the position. He got the red in. And now he's got a choice of the blue, pink or yellow for him to be taking. And just making sure that he gets himself into a really good position now with the next couple of reds. Trying to get really low underneath the cue ball. And just hold that cue ball with no pace at all. Avoid any cannon on the remaining 2 of those reds. And then just try and take the 2, which are going to be quite far away from each other, into the right corner. I feel like once again he's going to have a choice of playing for either pink, blue or yellow into the center of the table for the pink and blue, or the yellow into one of the corner pockets. Still seems like he's not going to be entirely happy with the way that he got the cut set up. So may need to use the bold colours or the black here. And the black should still remain on the yellow spot, even though it's about to be potted into the yellow pocket here. As the gap is going to be reduced to just 22 points of Ronnie O'Sullivan's advantage. So get really low on the cue ball again. Try and use the left side cushion to full extent, but I'm surprised once again Selt just tried to hold this one back there. And, well, I'll tell you what, he could not have finished anywhere worse there, really. Because, I mean, once again, it's a weird short selection now, because clearly there was a left side cushion. Yes, there the angle would have been tight, but all you had to do is add a little bit of spin, or maybe if you don't want to use one cushion, you feel like you may catch one of those unwanted reds there, you can always just use two cushions and bounce it away from the black ball cushion there. Instead, he's about to take a really difficult red into the yellow pocket, and if he's managed to get out of position last time around, he's not going to be able to do it here, and the same red should be playable for Ronnie O'Sullivan. I mean, I'll tell you what, once again, that is going to be probably the perfect summary of the way that Selt has played this match. And he's actually managed to do all the hard work and still finds himself 15 points down, and a massive let-off that could be for Ronnie if he takes this red into the yellow pocket. Probably is going to be the only part of the frame that he's going to be missing there. Ooh, he just about misses that red, but ultimately he got the cover on the blue, which he probably wasn't even playing for. But he got the cover on it anyway. The red stays next to the yellow pocket, not over the pocket, but right next over it. And we feel like it's going to be a difficult way for Selt to try and find the safety shot there. So is it going to be an attacking shot for him to be taking into the left corner? We're about to wait and see, because he needs those reds to go in, and he wasn't even close to it this time. Now let's see if he's going to leave anything simple away to Ronnie O'Sullivan. And he seems to be caught in two minds there, Ronnie, because, I mean, in terms of the reds, has he made his mind up yet? He only got himself to the table now. But I feel like the long shot is actually going to be easier with the red being closer to the pocket, and also the way that the red is going to be opened up to the angle is going to favour Ronnie a lot more. Now just needs to try and find the colour, and well, I'll tell you what, I say just, he's just about able to find that colour on the brown. He got himself around the black with too much power, and now he just needs to try and get the brown into the middle, hold that cue ball for the red, and at that point onwards, it should be a stroll to the finish line. As the referee, once again, is being asked to clean the red this time around. But I'll tell you what, I am very surprised with the way that Selt wasn't able to take that opportunity away from Ronnie. And now it should be a very much deal done and dusted for him. Sean Murphy seems to be on the roll as well, after finishing the previous frame with a really good break of 84 points. He's now going to be getting himself a break of 23 points to add to that counter as well. Luca Brissell is still fighting away to try and get himself a frame on the board against the young Artemis Citizens of Latvia. Now, if you're going to be taking this shred away, make sure that you're going to get a good position on the yellow or the pink. And, well, just as I say that, I said it as he played the shot, but I still feel like he should be all right to be taking the yellow, although he could have been a lot nicer to get himself set up with. And remember, he does need the colour after the red if he's going to have an expensive one to be taken, for example, the pink. If he's going to be taking the yellow 3 times in a row there, which is still very much the opportunity, then he's going to need the green with it as well. Now he's 23 points of the advantage as he takes the red, the yellow this time. So as I say, if he's going to have another red and yellow combination, he's probably going to be forcing himself to try and take it all the way. So needing the yellow for the 4th time on the row, but now just seems to have settled for taking the pink into the middle and getting himself to be quite far away from the yellow. But ultimately, it's not going to matter on the score sheet, and it's still going to be a frame for Ronnie O'Sullivan to be taking. And after a bit of a sloppy start to this frame, he manages to utilise that 44 points of a break that he had, and now extended to 61 points in terms of his points counter. As he takes the yellows, could still make it a break of 42 points if he makes the total clearance out of it, and just make it even better for him to be looking on the stat score sheet. And we've seen the top seeded players to be scoring really heavily in the first couple of rounds, but as I say, it's always going to be a bit of a different picture when you face the likes of Jackson Page, Gary Wilson and Matthew Selt, really, because these are the players that, yes, they're not going to be still in the top 16 category, but they're still going to be the one which you'll classify as a very dangerous player on their day. And this is exactly why you are going to have the performance like that very much appreciated by the fans. And now about to make a break of 42 points clearance. He is going to care about the black, and he certainly cares about the whole performance here. It is a break of 42 points from Ronnie O'Sullivan that gets himself another frame on the board, and he's going to extend his lead even further and take it to a 3-0 over deficit for Matthew Selt to try and find himself out of. And yeah, the mission was difficult enough before the match started, but now he has probably turned into mission impossible there. 41.0 are the odds for Selt to be the eventual winner of this match. And as we finish the 3 frames out there, Stan Moody and Ryan Day have only finished their second one. Weeze is about to take the 3rd frame away from Stuart Bingham and take it to 2-1 of a lead. Same for Sean Murphy, as he's got a 59 points of advantage as well. So it's now going to be more than 120 points without answer. Karen Wilson and Alan Taylor are still battling away, although it's still going to be a pure thing of formality. And it is inevitably going to be a 3-0 of a lead for Wilson to be taking on as well. Lisowski, by the way, finds himself in an interesting position in frame number 4, where he's 48 points down, but actually finds himself at the table and potentially with a chance to make a somewhat closer clearance and put a little bit more of a pressure back onto Jack Lisowski's shoulders. And yeah, in the meantime, as I say, if you talk about the way that Ronnie has managed to go on about the business, it certainly has been super impressive, but ultimately it has also been super consistent for him, because even when he had those couple of misses there, he still managed to get the cue ball into a position where, whether it was intended or not, you can never tell. But you know the red that he's missed along the side cushion into the yellow pocket? At that point, if he doesn't get the cover, you still would expect Selt to finally take that frame away. And this is going to be the fine margin, once again, that he just tips in favour of himself. Because that's exactly why he's lost the match against Ellie Carter. Is exactly why he's lost that match against Jack Lisowski in the International Championship. Same with Gary Wilson. Same with many other matches. And if he manages to get a couple of those aspects of the game in his favour, he's going to be a very difficult man to stop there. And that is exactly what we're seeing right now. So then, the referee's ready. Let's see whether the fans are going to be ready. So, whether he's just asking the fans to keep the noise down, or maybe just take their seats. It is going to be now a break of shot by Matthew Selt to be played. Let's see if he's going to get this one to full extent. Otherwise, he'll find himself in the world of trouble. Getting that cue ball to be lined up very much to the top end of the table, and he's played this one to the pretty much to the perfect extent, I would say. And yeah, he hasn't left anything easy away to Ronnie in terms of the attacking shots. Let's see if it's going to be the same thing for him to be when he comes to just trying to play a safety shot as well. He's going to get that cue ball very close to the left corner. Quite fortunate not to be leaving anything away there, apart from maybe a red into the right middle, which is still going to be a very difficult shot for Selt to try and execute. But it seems like it's just going to be a safety shot for him to be played, and Sullivan clearly managed to go on about the business well enough. And it's a good judgment shot from Selt. Managed to plant the cue ball perfectly onto the ball cushion. And he's going to get that cue ball into the left side of the bunch of those reds. Once again, he's just going to have to make sure he doesn't get too many of those too close to the right corner. He's managed to do that pretty well. So let's see if he's going to be now trying to take the red into the right corner from Selt, because he actually has got the angle to try and force that cue ball to be stunned and to go all the way for the blue, or even the bold colours if he plays that one with sort of maximum power. And yeah, he decided to go for a more safe approach, although he got the cue ball very close to the green pocket out there. Still going to have to play this shot safe, and yeah, there's going to be the same thing for Ronnie O'Sullivan here. Clearly acknowledgement with a little tap on the table there, and acknowledgement the way that Selt has managed to get that cue ball into a difficult position, but also at the same time, he didn't really leave any one of those reds too close to the left or right corner of the table either. So this is now going to be down to Ronnie to try and make things happen there. whether he's going to be able to take the reds into the right corner of the table, or just going to be forced to try and take that cue ball all the way to the top end of the table instead. Whatever he was, clearly didn't play that shot well enough. He got a double kiss, which is always going to suggest that he played that shot horribly wrong. Pretty much double kiss in fully in the face there as well, which he's going to leave that cue ball very much among those reds. And let's see if Selt is going to be trying to go for the red into the left corner. Seems like it's going to be his best chance of trying to get the break started here. So let's see the way that he's going to try and position the cue ball, whether it's going to be for the black or the pink straight away, is going to be another important factor. And he seems to have played it for both of the colours, but especially for the black here, because that's going to get it back to its own spot and give him an extra choice to be using in the next couple of shots there, as he probably wasn't going to leave and use these black as an advantage anyway, because of it being close to the right corner, simply because of, you know, you're always going to have a couple of those reds to be in the way, and ultimately that makes it even more pressure on yourself to try and find the positional play and get that black to be sorted for yourself. For now, he's going to get super close to another red to be taken and tries to backspin the cue ball around the reds and position for the black for one last time before he's surely going to be trying to utilize the pink a bit more, especially because of the fact of him having those two reds to be blocking the access for the black to be taken into the right corner. Unless he tries to take those two reds one by one there, he's taking a bit of a risky shot on the black though, because nearly missed the black into the left corner and now leaves himself with still quite a nice position on those reds. Although I'm a bit surprised that he's tried to take it into a difficult part of the task straight away without trying to take a bit more of those points with a couple more of those easy reds that he could have taken previously before needing to touch the bunch of those two or even more of those reds. About to take the black into the left corner and extend his break to 17 points and counting. So if you take that cue ball into the black and force the white to go all the way to the left side cushion, he's going to have a red waiting for him at that end of the table. That gets him at 24 points of the advantage, so he's still going to be positioned perfectly well for him to be taking at least this frame away from Ronnie O'Sullivan and make it a break of 25 points and counting here. So then lines up for the blue into the right middle for him to be taking. And if he's going to be able to play that cue ball all the way towards the side cushion, doesn't really want that cue ball to be stuck on it though, and clearly was trying to avoid the contact on the red. Didn't manage to do so, but at least he's still got that cue ball to be quite far away from the side cushion. Still going to leave him in a bit of a favourable position in terms of taking that red in, but could have done without needing to bridge over this red and take it all the way into the middle pocket here. So let's see, top spin certainly going to be needed, but also I'm quite intrigued to see which colour is he actually going to be playing for. And he's going to be playing for the pink, it would seem, into the middle, but I mean, he's actually going to have a greater chance of taking the black or the blue into the green or the right corner pockets respectively. I tell you what, this has got a bit of a nightmare that from Selt, because you know he's been not perfectly steady on taking those black off the spot previously. Now this is going to be a lot more difficult, and he's missed that one and didn't even get close to taking that black into the corner, and once again completely self-inflicted and only has got himself to blame for that. A break of 31 points is going to be his highest break in the match, but still nowhere good enough for him to be taking and using that break as a chance for it to be taken all the way. Although Ronnie has played this shot a bit pacey, he manages to get a difficult red in though. Now, the tables have turned and, you know, the position has gone over to Ronnie O'Sullivan here as well. But his case is going to be a lot different to the one that Matthew Selt had next to his name. And Ronnie's going to be grateful for all the points that he can potentially try and score here. And to tell you what, it may only come down to 3 of those points, which he's able to score because of, you know, he's tried to make things happen there, but it doesn't look like he's managed to do so. And he's not going to be lined up on any one of those reds. Tried to take it into the right corner, whether it was intentional or not, probably have to say yes to that. Because if you miss that red and you're playing that cue ball to be taken all the way, right to the death end of the table next to the blackmail cushion, then you're not really going to have either one of those reds available either. So he takes those reds away from each other. It's now going to be down to the last 9 reds there. 28 points of a lead, which is still going to be a significant lead there for Selt, especially with a couple of those reds to be messed up quite badly. But it's still very much, he's going to be a position where you could easily see Ronnie try and come back here and make another break of 40 or 50 points, which will get him right back in the equation. Ooh, this is going to be the brilliant invitation that, just as I say, Ronnie is always going to be capable of using the chance if you're going to leave it to him. And this is going to be a good chance there, because as much as it's going to be a red, which is going to be relatively straight, look at that, brilliantly cued. He's played that one perfectly straight in the face, and that was enough to force that red to drop in without wobbling too much, keep himself on the pink, and talk about a chance. This is now going to be the perfect chance in the making there, because Selt has actually managed to sort out a couple of those issues for O'Sullivan in the previous shot. He got the red away from the right side cushion slightly, which makes it playable now. If you're going to plant that cue ball perfectly alongside it and take it all the way along the side cushion, but ultimately that 21 points of an advantage is going to be absolutely nothing in a couple of shots time, because he's got the pink, he's got the black, and he certainly has got a couple of those reds to be taken with those reds as well. So let's see if he's going to be taking this one all the way, because I tell you what, 3-0 down and O'Sullivan playing well, you're probably not going to be able to come back from that anyway. But right now it's going to be all the way for Ronnie O'Sullivan to try and take a 4-0 lead into the intermission, and right now it does look like it is going to be a 4-0 lead to lose for him. Takes the black nicely into the corner. He's still going to have 4 easy reds, I would say, as he finds himself 6 points behind. So if you take those 4 reds with the black, then that gets you 32 points. And then you're going to be getting to the 2 more difficult reds out there, which if you're going to be able to pot 2 of them, should see you clear for a 4-0 lead to be taken into the intermission of 15 minutes time. Probably the longest pot once again of this match so far, with it being only about an hour since the match has started, and still Ronnie O'Sullivan is going to be threatening 4-0 of a scoreline to be his for the taking now. Once again, very quick, very precise and very accurate, it would seem. It's probably going to be the words to describe his campaign in the first 4 frames. A bit steady in the first couple, because he had those breaks of 77 and 138, which have allowed him to take those frames away from the opposition, very much from the first time of asking. As he now gets himself an 18 points of a lead. Underrun slightly for this red though. He's going to have to try and take at least 2 more of those reds, as he gets himself a 28 points of a lead. So just going to be looking at the ping for him to be taking as well now into the left corner. And then at that point, well, I tell you what, he's probably got himself in the worst possible position there to try and keep the break going. He's trying to take it with a backspin shot, but this has now left him in a bit of a struggle of a position. 25 points of a lead, so he's going to need those 2 reds to be taking, and in the meantime, he needs to take this red all the way into the corner. And look at that for a shot, absolutely thunders that one with the rest, playing with clear confidence, and still threatening to be very much having a 4-0 lead against Selt. Now just needs 2 more shots there. The black shouldn't be a lot of an issue, but this red certainly is going to be a lot more of that. As you can see, he's now ahead by 33 points, so the red, for a 4-0 lead to be his for the taking, and it is going to be his for the taking, just about brushes the blackmail cushion, but it was never going to be enough to put him off there, and still gets himself positioned perfectly for the black. And it has been an absolutely sublime clearance for Ronnie O'Sullivan, and he was able to turn that 31 points of advantage for Selt absolutely into nothing really, because now it's going to be a 41 and counting of a point of advantage there for Ronnie, and he's still going to be able to get another 70 plus break. He's not going to be able to make it another century break here though, as he gets the green to follow the destiny of the yellow and the previous 10 reds or so that he's taken. Now then positioning himself on the wrong side of a blue. It's not really going to matter now. It's 78 points. So he could still try and make a 96 points of a clearance, which is going to be another great piece of queuing there for him. But ultimately, he is going to be getting a 4-0 of a gap at the intermission. Only needs one more frame to be taken through to the last 16. And this is certainly going to be a lot more like Ronnie O'Sullivan that we know. And I tell you what, if he wants to try and come back to the way that he's been playing a couple of years ago, this is certainly the way to try and do the business for him, because Ronnie O'Sullivan seems to be back to his best here, as much as you can be, in the third round match against Matthew Selt, as he takes himself to a 4-0 of a lead, and he gets himself a 96 points of a clearance to go with that as well. It is now going to be Ronnie O'Sullivan 4, Matthew Selt 0. And on the other table, we're still going to have Shusi trying to fight back in the 4 frame, as he finds himself 2-1 down to Sean Murphy and 39 points as well. It does look like Sean Murphy against Ronnie O'Sullivan now in the last 16, but is that going to be the case when both of these matches finish? We'll have to wait and see, but for now, the intermission is about to begin.
Like a Hellcat.
see the light inside you, brighter than the skies. Hold on, just let us escape and fly away tonight. We have the world in our sight, and I know together we'll be alright. Can you see forever we will go? We are forever learning, one step at a time. As long as the world is turning, I'll be by your side. We'll keep the fire burning, I'll never see you hurt. You know I can't explain it in a way of words. We both know that you'll understand, and you'll see if you take my hand. And I'll go out of my own way for you. I'll go out of my own way. Take me in slow, breathe me in and let me go. Filling the lungs inside you, and the blackened eyes make my way into your mind. Just to know what you knew. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Let the darkness take control.
Suck me in the smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Sink to your heart to find you. Open up your eyes till you're blinded by the lies, so you can see what you do. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with a nasty bite at heart. In the dead of the night, teardrops on the floor. The pain is over. Feel the darkness take control. My heart rages around like an ocean in my head, because there are so many things that I left unsaid. I can almost feel you walking in the distance, but I know that it's not reality. If you are echoing around inside these parallel dimensions all alone, know I'll find you in my dreams.
Hello everybody, hello everybody, and welcome back to the match of Ronnie O'Sullivan against Matthew Selt. And after a brief intermission of 15 minutes time, now we are back to the main action once again. And let's see if it is going to be back to the same action for Ronnie O'Sullivan after he managed to have breaks of 77, 96 and 138 on his way to a very good lead of 4 frames to nil against Matthew Selt. One-way traffic in this match thought he will be closer. How wrong so far? Absolutely wrong. You know, if you see their first message in the chat, I literally said he's going to be a lot closer than the qualifying match, which has finished with 5 frames to 1 in Ronnie's advantage. But, you know, especially with that, a bit of a bad safety shot that Selt has played right now, he could still be going all the way for it to be a whitewash. The first time for Ronnie in sort of against, I don't know, a top 64 opposition of a player since Joe Connor in the first round of a match that I can remember in the 70 Masters, that he managed to be the runner-up. So let's see if it is going to be. Of course, he had another couple of those 5-0 wins against Stephen Maguire and Julian Boyko, I'm pretty sure. Those were the only 3 that he's managed so far in this season. If memory doesn't get me wrong on this one, but once again, Ronnie was sort of thinking about taking the attacking shot on the previous occasion, but he decided to take a safety shot instead, and now he gets himself a chance back here, and yeah, he's going to have this red opened up beautifully so that he can try roll the cue ball all the way along the right side rail, and look at that, brilliantly taken. Not even about the fact that he got the red in, he was always going to get that one into the right corner with no pressure on that shot at all, but manages to get that cue ball far enough the table so that he's about to take the blue. And this is going to be a very interesting challenge for Ronnie O'Sullivan as he takes the blue into the middle. Simply because of the way that he's got those reds to be positioned. And I tell you what, I say a challenge. I may have gone to the end of the challenge straight away. He's going to be thinking about trying to find an option there. But if you can't see any one of those reds, and there's only one that I feel like he's going to be able to pot there. And he seems like the pink is going to be in the way of that one. So Ronnie's just going to be looking around. And that's clearly going to be another suggestion that he's just going to have a shot to free up the black. And try and get the cue ball all the way to the top end of the table. Play this one pretty well. Wyan, Selby and Hawkins competing in this event. So both withdrawn. And if you're talking about the reason, I don't know about Selby, to be fair. I know that Hawkins has got a horrible shoulder injury. And he's under threat of not even playing for the World Championship. So certainly wish him the quickest possible recovery. That's certainly not the way that you want to restart your snooker campaign ever since the winning the Welsh Open. And Mark Selby not clue, but he better be serious because Mark Selby is probably the last of the players on the tour that I would expect to be withdrawing from the tournaments when he's just not feeling like he wants to play. Way too professional for that to be the case. And talk about professional, it's a really good safety shot from Selt on the previous occasion, and Ronnie just about manages to keep that cue ball within the bulk line, but ultimately still left the red available to be taken here into the corner. But once again, the fact that he's tried to get the black into the open play has gone into absolutely nothing now. He's going to have a handful of those reds to be in the way of the black here, and Selt is going to have to keep that in mind as well, because it makes the shot a lot more difficult. The fact that he needs to be taking the red and still getting that cue ball to go all the way to the top end of the table and potentially playing for either yellow or blue there. Let's see which way is he going to be, and he's going to miss a red. This is the way that he's been the entire match there, and feel like he got away with this one to an extent. It's going to be very interesting to see if Ronnie's going to try and take this red all the way along the black ball cushion, but with the way that he's looking at the top end of the table, that's clearly going to be a safety shot taken. Yeah, I'm really surprised that neither of those attacking options for Selt have gone in, but it's just been the way that this match has gone. You know, whenever there is a chance of a 50-50, it doesn't seem to be anywhere near it. And now it's going to be O'Sullivan to try and take it another safety battle and ultimately have got the advantage now with him taking the first shot, taking that cue ball super well. And once again, the pace judgment has been absolutely supreme for Ronnie, getting that cue ball all the way to the top end of the table. And now Selt is going to be thinking about trying to do something with the right hand side. He's not got any one of those reds to me that he can see into the left part of the table, so he needs to probably try and get that cue ball to be lined up for the bulk area, the black ball cushion, because he simply doesn't have the angle to try and force the cue ball all the way to the top end of it. So he pulled out on medical reasons. Yeah, he was always going to, as I say, like, it was always going to be a medical reason for Selby, because he's not going to be, I suppose it could be personal reasons, but I knew it was due to medical reasons. But, by the way, this shot hasn't actually been played to the perfect extent there from Matthew Selt, and he's potentially left out a gap there for Ronnie to be taking a raid into the corner. He's gone for it, and he's taken it super well. So once again, it is going to be Ronnie O'Sullivan back in the horse here. And it's a really interesting position. It's not quite as bad as the first time he stepped up to the table. He does have the black available. He does have the pink available to an extent. But once again, he's got a bit of a difficult shot of the blue here for him to be lined up on the red. He manages to be on the red, although just about. Yeah, he should be able to be comfortable enough, though, to find that cue ball to go all the way for the blue. Once again, overrun for it slightly. They're not going to be happy with this one too much, but this time around, he should have the angle and the power for that cue ball to go all the way past the pink on the left-hand side, so that he's going to be sending the cue ball into an open area and just needs the cue ball to keep running. And then he should have an option to be taken into the corner. Once again, probably the way that this match has gone, really, because Selt is going to make a mistake, probably get away with it. The second time he makes a mistake, he's not going to be able to get away with that one. But once again, the thing that we haven't seen tested at all, but when we have seen it tested, it's been horrendous. It's been his long shot game. Once again, I mean, I can hardly think of one long shot that he's taken and actually been able to get himself lined up for a colour as well. And Ronnie been practicing hard for the last 2 months. He's trying to get back to his good action. Yeah. I've seen that, and I've actually been really surprised with it, because he says that potentially, I'm not putting words in his mouth or anything, but potentially could be competing to 2 more years guaranteed on the tour. Yes, he says he needs to try and put a time frame on that comeback, but the fact that he basically confirmed, not saying that he's officially confirmed it, he's going to be competing next season, and he actually wants to try and get himself back to good form, playing well and stuff like that. That's really inspiring, really. And certainly hope that if he manages to play like he has managed to play today, I feel like the real test is going to come against Murphy, though, because I feel like it's safe to say right now that O'Sullivan is going to be qualified to the next round. Murphy's got a 3-1 lead against Shusi. He just won 3 frames on the bounce. So it does look like the last 16 match is sorted. So I feel like this is going to be the real test, because I still can't get over the horrible performance that he had against Murphy. Probably the worst that I've ever seen from Ronnie O'Sullivan, when he lost that 4-0 match against Sean Murphy. It wasn't even the scoreline. It was the way that he was missing those shots. Couldn't cue 5 points of a break together. Now, today, anything but that. And he gets himself a break of 46 points and counting, as he takes another pink into the left corner. 52 points of an advantage altogether. So I do hope for a bit of a rematch. At that point, he had 7 or 8 years that he hasn't lost out to Murphy. And hopefully he will be able to get himself through to the 3rd quarter-final appearance of the season. Just having a look towards the lower end of the table of those Reds. Just trying to find himself lined up for the blue once again. Oh, I mean, that's clearly something that he was looking at, trying to make sure he avoids a cannon on those Reds, but in the end, wasn't able to do so. So it's now going to be a break of 52 points, a gap of 58 points as well. But now what's it going to be? Is he going to be taking this red into the yellow pocket? I mean, realistically, it's all about just getting over the line, so he can afford to do it. You know, you're not really going to lose this match now, being 4-0 clear and 58 points clear. And even if you are, you're going to have to focus about that in a couple of frames' time. For now, you just have to try and trust in your ability. And, well, surprisingly to me, he's going to be taking a safety shot so well. I mean, talk about taking it seriously. I mean, you know, he's taking it seriously when me, a person that is desperate for Ronnie to be winning those matches, especially with high scoreline, actually says that surely the computer is going to say yes to that. And still, he decides to go for a safety shot. Selt nearly messes it up on the first chance. And when I say nearly got a double kiss, but he still got a kiss on the yellow. Now let's see if it is going to be taken all the way for red to disappear into the corner. As I said, the only thing that has been missing so far have been his long shots. And once again, it is going to be missing again. A bit of a weird shot, though, to be fair, because he was playing that cue ball for the pink and right in the mix of those reds, which probably puts it down to the question why he hasn't played the previous shot into the yellow pocket. But in any way, he's missed that red. He hasn't given it away. And Selt is going to be forced to just try and take that red into the side cushion. And, I mean, Ronnie probably wouldn't mind to be having that red out there. So if he can find a good safety shot out of the reds on the lower end of the table, he's going to be using that chance because, of course, he finds himself with 58 points of a lead. He basically needs 2 reds to be taken, and then it is going to be frame of the match over to Ronnie O'Sullivan. And Selt is going to need every single one of those reds. He's going to need the black to be developed as well, because he needs to be taking those reds with sort of reasonable colours and points. For now, he's managed to take a decent shot there, taking the cue ball to go all the way towards the centre of the ball cushion. And ultimately for himself, managing to get a couple of those reds to be away from each other as well. So Ronnie's going to try and find a very thin cut on the edge there. Nearly got that one into the corner, and still managed to get a really good sort of connection with the cue ball. And he should be covering up the same red there that he nearly got into the pocket as he gets super close to the green. So Selt, he's going to be feeling like this frame, the match and everything is just slipping away from him. But he's still going to try and continue fighting out there. Plays another great shot. getting himself out of a difficult situation, planting that red onto the black cushion, and inevitably forcing Ronnie to probably take a cross double in towards the middle and inevitably get one of those reds to be away from the side cushion. In the end, he hasn't taken it with a cross double, but still forced to take that red away from the side. And now Selt is going to have the initiative next to his name, has got the chance to try and free up the black here as well into the open plate. He's managed to do that. And now where's the cue ball going to finish? It's going to stay on the table. So that's a positive start. But he's managed to leave one of those long reds to be available. You feel like this is probably the one that Ronnie has played previously. And he's taken away from the side cushion. But surely now he's not going to be able to miss this one. Although, I mean, I'm not sure if he was playing it. But if he was, he could not have missed it by more than what he actually had. But he clearly wasn't playing for it because of, you know, the way that the cue ball was finished. He had no chance to be playing colour from that position. And he still needs it. But yeah, he said that he's got into China a week earlier than the tournament started. Of course, there was a 2-week of a break. And he wasn't competing in the Welsh Open anyway. So it was down to purely trying to get that confidence back up. Trying to get the queuing back to the level that we're used to seeing. But he says that he managed to get the scoring pattern of play very much back to the very top. 463 points that he scores. Very much threatening on 500 points in 5 frames there. Although he just played a really bad shot. And catching the blue on the right side has allowed Selt to be having a chance here. It's anything but easy. But at least it's an opportunity there. And you never quite know. It may be the last opportunity that Selt gets himself into. Yeah, this is going to be a lot more difficult than the one that we've seen in the 3rd frame though, because of the number of reds to be in a difficult position. And even the starting point is not even that simple. He needs to get an extension for the queue. You would expect him to get this red in, but you expected him to get plenty of those reds in since the start of the frame, since the start of the match really. And it hasn't really worked out for him since then, but he got this red in, which is a good start. Now he's going to be lined up on the pink, but yeah, it is going to be just taken in a red in the colour combination, because I'll be surprised if he gets a 30 break out of this position, because if he gets a 30 break, he should be on for a fantastic clearance. And because of 6 colours, as much as pretty much all of them are going to be out of position apart from the green and the pink, it is just going to be down to those reds for him to be taken. But straight away, it's a wrong decision. I don't know. Clearly, he could not have got on those reds from the pink, and whatever he was, he decided to take it with the black, tried to cannon those reds away from each other, lost the cue ball completely after touching those reds. And now I said 30 break, or 30 points there. Now he's going to be able to take 9 points there if he can. He should be able just about to get through to the red to try and take it into the corner. But once again, he is going to be very much on thin ice for him to try and stay in this frame, taking that red. He needs a colour though. He can't be taking all the yellows there. Yeah, he can just about take the blue here, but I'm not sure if he's going to have the angle to try and force the cue ball to go all the way down the lower side of things here. And if he's going to be taking the green, he's going to lose 4 of the potential points that he could have scored there. With blue, it's only going to be 2 of those. But as I say, if he takes the blue on, as much as it's going to be 2 extra points, it's going to be very difficult for him to try and be lined up on the next red out there. It's a decent effort. He just needs to get a little bit of luck out there. But clearly, with his face expression and his body language, he got anything but luck out there. But to be fair, that was really unlucky, because of all the places for him to finish, super tied up to the red, like a millimetre tight. That was probably 1 chance in 100. And oh, look at that. That is nasty, to be fair. So break of 14 points. That wasn't too far away. And still, it's advantage O'Sullivan, because he's managed to lose a couple of those points previously. And now Ronnie only is going to need a red and a black combination. And he should be lined up for Selt to be needing snookers to try and stay in the match here. For now, Ronnie takes really thick on the edge there for this red, but still manages to bring the cue ball over the top of the bulk line, which is going to put the cue ball in a relatively safe position. The red is probably about to be taken into the corner. what channel they're showing the match. It depends which country you're watching from, but it should be on TNT because of not too many of those. I mean, I actually thought Selt was going to shake hands there. Of course, you're not allowed to concede the match before he technically can. Still try and find yourself winning that one, but with him leaving a red over the middle after having a very unsuccessful attempt of taking the red into the corner, it is now going to be surely Ronnie O'Sullivan to take it all the way, and a very much similar performance to the one that he had against Stephen Maguire. So I wouldn't really be saying that he's back to his prime form. He's had glimpses once again, and he manages to avoid losing those frames, but it has been anything but a good performance from Matthew Selt. And I feel like the stars are going to be aligned when we're going to see the match against Sean Murphy. That one is going to be a real test for Ronnie, because they'll probably get him as a favourite to be in this, into a semi-final, with Higgins being out of the tournament already. So it's going to be a very interesting match for us to be seeing, but well, you feel like there's not going to be any points for Selt to continue. He will, but I don't know why. 58 points down, and yeah, he was just making his way around the table at the end to shake hands there with Ronnie O'Sullivan. A fist bump from the referee as well. And Ronnie O'Sullivan is through to the last 16 there. And GG's match, Ronnie back happy. Thank you for covering. And yes, we'll be back. Ronnie O'Sullivan is going to be playing tomorrow. I'm not sure if it is going to be against Sean Murphy or Shusi. It should be against Sean Murphy. Don't know why we're getting a bit of a, whether it's a friendly conversation there for Ronnie or Selt, or there's a little bit of needle in there. Probably not, because of probably me just trying to make things up there, but probably a bit of a discussion there, and a serious attention, to be fair, from Selt and Ronnie, as they still seem to be talking to each other as they walk away. Anyway, there wasn't any chance for Selt, and it is victory for Ronnie O'Sullivan that gets himself through to round 4 of the last 16. And let's have a look how the opposition players are playing, whether it's going to be Shusi or Sean Murphy. And Shusi is still fighting back to try and get himself lined up with a 2-3 of a deficit. Back, very bad service at work. Yes, it happens, Letitia. Anyway, it's a 5-0 win for Ronnie O'Sullivan, and he's going to be getting himself to the last 16. If, by the way, it's going to be a little announcement, if we are going to be seeing Zhao Xington against Gary Wilson, we'll be doing 2 of those matches tomorrow, and it's going to be Ronnie O'Sullivan no matter what. Whether it's going to be against Shusi or Sean Murphy, it remains to be seen. But Zhao Xington, if he's able to get past Sam Craig, there will be a double watch-along tomorrow. For now, thank you very much for everyone tuning in. Congratulations to Ronnie. He's played really well today, and let's hope he's going to be able to get himself into the business end of this tournament. For now, it is Ronnie O'Sullivan 5, Matthew Selt 0. Brilliant stuff, but it is now tomorrow where Ronnie's going to be tested to try and get himself to the quarterfinal stage yet again in the China Grand Prix.
My heart rages around like an ocean in my head. I can almost